What's going on, big dog? It's back to
What's up, man?
we don't need the formal introductions anymore, man. We just pop on and be like, "What's happening?" Everybody pop on in, man. So
No
to
doubt.
to to everybody, we gonna jump into a couple of things real quick, talk about it, and we invoke some of the better conversations
Yeah,
around here, man. Like it's
yeah.
we want, sometimes y'all want to talk about it, y'all a little scared too. We come and we talk about it, and we bridge that gap. That's what we good at. And one gap we gonna bridge is another one between the east and the west, because we about to have another beef all over again
Oh, don't do
from
that.
90s members. That's what makes it so bad.
Don't do
It's from
that.
the
Don't.
90s, man.
It's not beef, man.
Hey man, what's beef? Beef is when I forgot the lyrics. I
Well,
can't even
Chubb
finish.
Rock told you back in the days when you had nothing but beef. In the end, you might lose nothing but teeth. That's fly. But
Okay.
nowadays, ask kids if you have beef, you might die. So it's not beef. It's not beef.
What it
It's
sounded
it's
like
just
that.
a it's just something that was brought out in the open, and people had some retorts, but I think it's
Yeah.
still it's love between all because they came up in the same eras and known each other. I just think it was something that just caught off guard. It's one of those when you got something you feel and you never said it so many years, and then it comes out, and they're like, "Hold on, man, I never know you felt like that. What was that about?" You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And well
But
let's
tell them
finish.
what we talking
Yeah, let first off, let us tell you what we're talking about. So what we're talking about is special ed. I almost called him special Ted, and nobody would get
about.
that.
Nobody,
And
please don't do
nobody would get that. The
Please don't.
special ed was on Drink Champs. Special ed talked about how did he used the it basically he blamed
Right.
NWA for
Open
violence
the
in
door.
music. Say again.
No, 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 no.
What say
Not
it
gonna say
say it the
no.
right way.
He said it opened the door for the destruction of hip hop.
Yeah.
It was more
The
general.
the age of destruction
The
is
age
actually
of
what it said.
destruction of
Yeah.
hip hop. Yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about it, man, because I honestly don't agree
Uh oh.
with special ed at all. Number one, because I feel like there's some different historical significance. And if I'm not mistaken, and a lot of it is built on what was happening in American society at the time. Like it's I there are a lot of reasons why I feel like this was a very and he didn't. So a lot of people will hear the clickbait and they'll feel like he walked it back. He didn't walk it back. He actually explained it real time, right? So he talked about what he meant and how he actually broke it down a little bit, and it was understandable. Still disagreed with it even after he broke it down, because there was an age in hip hop that was open, and industry leaders do like they do in anything else, and they open the door. But I'm not going to point to NWA and say that they were I mean, Ice T was
Well,
a while before
well,
he came out with Cop Killer. But go ahead.
well. I'm gonna say this. I get it what he was trying to say, but I think you know, even still, I think many follow certain patterns that eventually brought us to where we are today. Because his message was like, look at it, hip hop now is in a state of destruction. And he's saying they opened the door. But I'll share a story with you. I remember one time I was on the school bus, and one of the cats lived up the street in the apartments, as we called them. I remember he had a tape. It was the first Ghetto Boys album. And I remember he was like, "Man, they raw. They raw. I said, wow, they really, he like, man, they raw. And guess who he compared them to?
Ooh,
NWA. He said, man, they go harder than NWA. Or they raw in the comparison.
yeah,
I thought about that when this happened because when we started seeing more quote unquote of the gangster rap or more of the raw in your face messages, a lot of that was compared to NWA. And I make this point and I'm gonna pass it to you, but I get it in the sense of NWA was the first to bring it like real raw in your face. Like the message is kind of like, whoa, right? And I think they were really, speaking to what was going on and everything. And they had positive records and stuff that was rebellious. Because even Special Ed brought up the fact, they did F Police, and he said that kind of retaliation was where it started because he was speaking more in terms of how it opened the door to get more scrutinized and watched by government entities and get scrutiny, and then eventually bringing in those in industry uh level entities that then perpetuated it to a degree that brought it to where we are today. Essentially, I think. Um, but I mean, when we look at when the rawness came, it was compared to NWA. So I get it in a sense. Whether I agree they were the sole entity, that could be debated because there were a lot of people that had raw messages that just didn't have, to his point also, that didn't have as much of the mainstream attention.
yeah.
But
See, so this is here's the problem I have. We
talk
do
to
this
me, Matt. Talk to me.
we do this with rap, and we'll hear people go, man, these kids today, like we going through it now, like man, these kids today just don't care. And I'm like, nah, like some of the stories you hear, it sounds like stuff my uncle told me happened in the 70s with them. Like
Yeah.
and they like it's so it didn't stop. And there's this where it's like it opened up a golden era, opened up an era of destruction, right? Well, the era of destruction was already open. That's part of the problem. So you can't say that it happened in hip hop. Hip hop was always a replication of what they saw within their environment. That's what made hip hop fundamentally interesting in the first place. That's where it started. So I mean, if you want to say that hip hop is that's NWA started the era of destruction, like then you can say that about anybody who was instrumental in starting hip hop, period, because it was a simple reflection of one's environments. And as it continued to go regionally, what we saw, which is one of the more interesting things about hip hop, is you got to see different cultures regionally within the US. But gangster rap stemmed from 1988 to 19, I believe it was either 1992 or 1993, which still on record the most violent period in American history.
Well,
It's attached.
yeah.
It's attached to cocaine and the development and usage of crack cocaine as it poured through minority neighborhoods. So if you really want to talk about what started it, you have to start there. You can't just go to NWA and then effectively say, "Well, that was No, like what happened was if NWA didn't have that to talk about, that doesn't exist. It
Mhm.
it does not exist in that regard. So you have to start there first because that's like saying that goofy rap started with Humpty Hump, Shot or Shock G. Then we had the rapping cowboy before that. So it's what I mean, like
Rapping dude.
exactly like it's but before that it was before we ever heard of Shock G, Humpty Hump, anybody else. So even when you see new rappers now, and even when you get like, I try to stop people when they even get to the point of saying, "Hey, look, the music today," and it's like, "Hey, man, I want you to go back and listen to Confunction and a couple other groups like Confunction, and tell me, can you tell the difference?" When it gets industrialized, it's a wash and repeat, wash, rinse, repeat. Every industry does that. So I don't like when we see it happen here. And what Special Ed did was ignore the fact that what NWA did was a wash, rinse, repeat cycle. It was just, oh, our region's different. Let's show them how our region's different. What's the dip? That was the whole argument between Brooklyn and South Bronx. So when you had the battles in the origin of hip hop, the bridge is over. That was a battle of two different regions in the same region. think about that for a second. It's a battle between Brooklyn and the South. Come on, man. So that's what NWA did. Like let's try and call it what it is and put it in its proper perspective. What they did was they brought hip hop. What they did was they brought their origin to hip hop. They brought their region to hip hop. They took their culture to hip hop.
Yeah.
They talked about what they saw. And when you think about when they were coming out, it was during the most violent period in American history. So to silence NWA or try to do so in that moment is like trying to say that I just didn't like the tape. Like that was too much for me.
I'm gonna quote something. I believe, and I hope our super producer Will McKee correct me. I believe it was Tribe Called Quest. To your point, that said, "We don't own boats. We don't own planes. Who brought the weed and the cocaine?"
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna leave it there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it there.
And then
who understand?
But NWA, their first album was when?
88, 87? 87.
That was when we first heard NWA.
I believe so. I think I had a tape when I was 9. So but to that point, a lot of it, as you say, was reflected in the streets, or not reflective, but reflective of what they were seeing in their community. But I think we can't ignore, because I remember listening to Easy E and the tape back when, uh, and the messages were more aggressive than what you usually saw in rap.
Right.
Now, I think because uh, media keeps evolving, as we see now, even with the evolution of social media and the rise, things just get a louder voice.
Yeah.
So they weren't the first. Technically, you could even say Ice-T, as I think Nori mentioned, but and Schoolie D and others that got classified as that, who you could say, but when you begin to get the attention, um, that message rings even louder, and I think that's what we see even now with the rap, because you have a louder voice now with the media outlets you have, and the access to stuff now that we didn't have back then. So I think it's not to say, I never buy that the rap was the cause of the violence. But I will say we
I mean,
did
it was a
after that
product of it.
start. It's a product
Yeah,
of it,
it's a product of it.
or response to, as the East Coast would say, it was a response to that crack era, police violence, and everything. But I would say though, still after that era, you started seeing more aggressive, I guess, more aggressive tone in rap. Uh, the West Coast started bringing. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
We never said we don't love them before we heard West Coast rap.
right.
We ain't never heard Bees ain't. But so you started seeing those more raunchy messages and stuff now.
Yeah,
Yeah. East Coast might have said, but they might have been like, "Watch it, she could be a gold digger," or they might have used Skeezer in a song. So it was there, but
but it was.
to the degree that the West brought it as in your face, I do think they have to take credit for opening that element of hip hop. And not to say it's the cause of anything, but they did pioneer the more raunchy message or in your face message. Back to you, bro.
Yeah. So here's the other thing that people don't understand too. You can easily, if you listen to the lyrics in the message, and we're talking we're talking early 80s music now for those who are too young to catch on to that. But when you that can easily be considered a gangster rap music song.
No.
No. When you listen to what he's talking about, he's talking about crime and despair. He's not talking about killing
But he
anybody,
was he was
but the
putting it
subject
at the
matter.
forefront.
But
But it wasn't like,
it was a report from the street. Broken
yeah.
glass everywhere.
But
People
NWA
looking at them
wasn't
like
simply a
you just
report.
don't care. Listen, it again, if you break the lyrics down, you can easily and I'm saying this specifically by special ed's definition. You can take those lyrics, dissect them, and say based on what they're talking about. Because what I'm saying is what he was talking about was no different than what was being talked about in NWA. It was a message that wasn't glorified. Tupac had that kind of music all the time. But if he did
Well,
anything else,
Tupac had a revolutionary message.
but he also had music that
It was more aggressive.
wouldn't be considered revolutionary in that way. But that's
Yeah.
what hip hop is about. So, but what you saw was a development of it, and that's really what I'm talking about here. Is not a comparison; it's the evolution of it. So, as the time goes, and I started with the message for a reason, because the reason why it stands out in everybody's mind is it was one of the first tracks that gave you that direct message from the street. That's the reason why I say gangster rap. I attach that to it. Now, again, as we point out, Ice-T and Schoolie D out of Philadelphia they would probably be attached to the first gangster rap artist. And that was in the mid 80s. We're talking 85, 86. We didn't hear from the NWA until 87. But as you continue, now you have NWA, and now they call it gangster rap. And then on the back end of NWA, you now have Ghetto Boys. They're not attaching that to gangster rap because they don't know what to call it. Then the evolution goes, and then you start getting more music out of Atlanta. And now you have what's called trap music. And the South grabbed trap music and embraced it. It's no difference from what NWA is talking about. And if you really break it down, like really, really get a microscope out and start breaking down what they're talking about, you could track that back to Melly Mel again.
No, the only reason I won't agree with that is that it's two extremes, because Melly Mel, there's a difference in giving a report on this is what I see this happening, because even from that perspective, he was speaking as somebody that was fed up with it because I have to deal with this. They had that message too, but when you say I bet
that It was a
Huh?
message that was what?
About being fed up. And the West had
About
that
being fed
message
up.
too. The West had that message too.
Okay.
But at the same time, they had a message of I best pull out my strap and lay them busters down. So when I say that and you break it down to Melly Mel, I can't do that in the sense of gangster rap because that's why I said
I
it was a
can.
little more aggressive on yo, we saw them dudes and bop.
No,
And
I
the East even followed suit. So when that's my problem with it because I'm like, well, Ed, even though if you felt that on the East, y'all still had some cats that ended up following suit. And then they got more aggressive with, you know what I'm
the East
saying?
was already aggressive. That's kind of what my point is.
Yeah,
That
but
music was aggressive when you start attaching that to just the West Coast alone. Because here's the other thing that gets
no, but
me.
I'm saying, hold on, let me say this before you go. I'm gonna pass it back. Yes, you had some, but the majority, I would say, of East Coast rappers that were popular mainstream at that time of NWA weren't speaking that message. The native tongues were
Which one
out.
came
You
out first, Self Destruction or Same Game?
self-destruction.
Self Destruction.
And
Was
they were
that an East
speaking
Coast
against
song
it.
or a West Coast song?
No, but hold on. I think we're arguing two different things.
I hear.
Because self-destruction and same game was to combat the problem. And nobody's saying the West Coast didn't do that. As I was talking before,
That's not what
NWA
I'm
even
talking
came out
about.
with Respect Yourself. But what I'm saying is the majority of East Coast rappers at that time that were mainstream in the late 80s and 90s weren't spitting those type of lyrics that were mainstream. Who was mainstream in the late 80s and 90 at the turn of when that rose up? Who was most popular? LL Cool J, Native Tongue, They Lied, Tribe. It wasn't on a majorative level. It's not to say they didn't have people that said stuff, but on the mainstream that got the attention that NWA did, you didn't have it as much on the East. Now, it rolled, and the East got to take their share of it because they did the same thing, right? But I'm saying, I see what he's saying in the sense of the first time you heard it so raw was with NWA, and I don't think they would disagree that they were the rawest.
Yeah. So here's the problem with that. The one thing everybody forgets when they talk about this argument and the evolution, the other thing that had to evolve was the FCC. There was FCC censorship. The reason why, and Ice-T caught a bunch of flack for it when he came out with Cop Killer. Like that was a really big deal, which is the reason why he was silenced for a couple of years. Then what happened was NWA found a way to get that message out specifically, and they broke the mold. So what you saw were people who were siding with the FCC to kind of silence NWA and what they were doing because the music was a little too vulgar. Because again, we can track that back to um, we can track that back in R&B. Like there's all kinds of songs where they are very scripted according to FCC regulations at the time. NWA was not. So when you talk about who was on the West Coast citizens, and they weren't doing that because there was a lot of restrictions from FCC. So they went around the other way. NWA was just like that door is in front of us, and we getting ready to keep kicking it in until we kick it down. Nobody else wanted to do that because it was still building during that point. And that's the one thing that always gets left out of this conversation. So we keep, because now they keep hearing the music now and it's much more vulgar. And they're like, well, boy, the way they do it now, the FCC ain't in the way. They can do it now. They would have did it then. Marvin Gaye would have had some very different tracks had there not been FCC regulations. Like because you can hear it in the music. Like if you listen, I always tell people, like when people saw Kanye West with Trump.
But that's
What?
I get what you're saying, but that's still subjective. Like because
It is
R&B
to a
is
certain
a
extent.
totally different, so I see what you're saying. They got restrictions, but I still think the focus is on how they retaliated to in kicking the door. What I'm
Yeah.
speaking, what I think Special Ed was getting at was like, because he even said when you do F the police, that's a direct, just like Ice-T, like that's a direct, aggressive, wasn't nobody doing that.
Mm-mm. Like I said, the
Now
coach.
they might have said I gotta watch the Pope to the point of Melly Mel in the message. You see the cops harassing them, but they're showing the victimization. They wasn't. They was explaining, but they wasn't
So was
like
NWA.
bump you cop. They wasn't like bump you cop. So what I'm saying is, you see a difference in the aggression and the once again the in your faceness, if that's a word. I
But
don't think
but
that's a word, but I'm gonna use it.
but,
In your faceness.
but see that's the thing. You have two people saying the same thing. You just have one person saying it a lot more aggressive than other
That's
folk.
that's
And
the
and
point.
as a result, but see that the reason I have a problem with that is because, and I always go back to this when I have conversation with folk, and I go back to the Trayvon Martin trial. When that Trayvon Martin trial was up, I had a whole week. I had that whole week to watch it because I had just got to this is when I was traveling for work. I had just got to my location. I had a lot of in-house stuff to do that first week. So I had time to sit and watch that trial. So I watched it. And what I watched was young lady give testimony and give a message. And everybody refuted what she said because of the way that she said it. And it became problematic because they didn't like the way the message was being received and nobody was listening to what she was saying. And that's what I'm saying I feel like is being judged here because, again, Melly Mel's the message was so powerful because it was a message, but he kept it within the FCC airwaves. Now I won't say that he would have done it differently because I don't know Melly Mel. I don't know if he would have done it any differently in that regard. But what I do know is that the way that message was presented had a lot to do with FCC and how he felt about it so that he could get the message out. So he tailored it accordingly. And what I'm saying is by 1988, NWA had tailored theirs accordingly. And we're still talking about the most violent era in American history. Now, when you look up most violent era in American history, that stems from the 70s, and that had everything to do with the mob gangs and the mob wars that were going on in New York and Chicago and that violence. So that there was just another period in time that happened that was much more violent than that one. And when the products of those environments started speaking about it, a lot of people were afraid. And the difference in what I'm saying is you saw those disparities in early 1980s New York with Melly Mel, but you saw how worse it had gotten by 1988. Again, 1992, LA was on fire. People, the city was on fire. Like we keep forgetting that part about it because a set of cops had beaten up Rodney King. We saw them do it. We saw that it was excessive, and then we saw them walk out. That's how much of a powder keg it was during the period. So we have to take all of it into account. We can't just look at half of it. All of that has to be looked at. And it's not on NWA to determine how that message is be received. We're gonna leave it there because this is one we can end up talking about all day. Because this again, you have to bridge all of it. You can't just, and that was the problem with Special Ed's comment to me, is it was one-sided and it was a one-way street. And it's like, man, this thing is 5 lanes with turning lanes. This is way more nuanced than just NWA. Like that's you got to talk FCC to me. You got to talk the period in time for which it came out to me. Like, we got to talk about all of it. So we're going to leave it there. And we're going to target something else because Deion Sanders is a prime target in the media right now. And, ooh, buddy, is he, you want to jump on this one real quick? Because this was a little more, I just caught wind of what this was about with the new rules.
Well, I not to get into specifics because looking at time and trying to get in, but basically, you're starting to see some rules come into play that are directly impacted or directly as a result of the impact that Dion's having on the game of college football, and now you're starting to see some things, which is something that you kind of fear because sometimes these entities uh, they how should I say, sometimes with celebrity and personality, there's limitations. Sometimes they don't want it to outgrow the game or be seen as that, or be seen that it's all about the actions of certain schools or programs or anything. We've seen this throughout the history. We've seen um, and speaking truth to life. I
Yeah.
mean, we've seen where people have been targets of stuff. We look at certain teams throughout NCAA history, the UNLV teams of the past that would seem to be targeted
Yeah.
because they had a different swag about them. But you know, with the NIL and trying to manage it, you know, they're trying to regulate like photo shoots now for recruits uh, on visits and stuff like that. I guess because Dion using Lamborghinis or whatever, and so now you see the NCAA trying to uh, 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 kind of get a handle on this because Colorado's promoting these Louis Vuittons and Lamborghinis, and the snapshots are going all over the world, and it gives them kind of a recruiting edge, especially if other schools aren't able to have access to certain items or resources to do this stuff. I guess they feel like it's becoming an advantage. Um, but you know, if it's within the rules, I think it's fair game. But as you see now, they're starting to
Trying to change the
tighten
rules.
up on some
Yeah.
things. Yeah, they're trying to talk. So you know, it looks a lot like targeting. Uh, and it'd be interesting to see if some of your more heralded coaches that's been established in the college game for a while, the blue blood programs, if they'd have done this, if it would have been seen the same way. I think that would have been interesting, but I think because it's Dion and the way he does it, uh, I think he gets a little extra special attention. Um, because of the buzz that's happened so fast. Just it's swag. He prime time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the way he does it is so different, and it's Hollywood. You know what I mean? I mean, just look at all who's gathered around and corralled around the program. With as far as superstar uh, level individuals. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just like, wow, this happening so much, so fast, so big. No, we gotta, you know what I'm saying? This is somebody who's just getting their feet wet. You know what I'm saying? But
But
eh,
I mean, it was specifically directed at, because one of the things they're proposing is new legislation regarding photo shoots for recruits on university campus, and especially for I saw something else about unofficial visits that's in this new legislation that they are suggesting. But it just seems to be more of a direct jab at Dion because he used the photo shoot opportunities to promote Louis Vuitton Lamborghini sports cars, and they didn't like that. And it's a bunch of other mess. It when the first time I caught wind of this was earlier today, and it brought me to the mind of Rich Paul and the Rich Paul rule, and that's what they called it, where it was something about if you didn't something that you couldn't have an agent. I can't remember
You had
exactly
to
what
have
it
you had
was.
to have a college degree or some sort of
Yeah,
college
yeah,
degree.
they were trying to add that, and it was, and it goes back to
Yeah.
the if you don't like the rules of the game, change the like. You can't say, "Hey, man, the rules are the rules." Like some people are like, "Well, let's change the rules." Like that's the easy
But
answer to everything.
that's a sign of America, right?
Yeah,
Like the purpose is to do your best to succeed and be successful and contribute right to your nation. But then when certain it seems like when certain people or certain entities become that and do what it is, now you want to change the rules because no, you're not the right group, or we don't want that message
yeah,
to get out.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right, to because if I let you become this big time agent and you didn't, okay, what message does that send about the other ones who have gone to college and done this and been doing this for years, and now you come in and strike the match and boom,
That's
and but that's a sign, though.
that's why I
Sign
said
of
I
America.
like
Forgive me,
Dion.
America. I have to call you out.
But that's why I said I love the fact that Dion was breaking the mold, and I didn't care if he even recognized that that's what he was doing because he was doing it, and it's one that needs to be broken. Like I said, Dion may or may not know how to do it strategically, but it's happening, and it needs. It's one of those things like it needs to happen. Let it happen. Like it's like the roof the roof is on fire. But my concept is the same. But that's what I'm saying.
Need no water.
My concept is the same. We don't even know how the fire got started, but we just gotta let it. Let's
He
roll.
didn't
Let's,
start the
let's
fire.
roll with it.
It was already burning. I ain't gonna give it to him. I ain't gonna give it to him.
We got to
I ain't
roll
gonna give it to him.
once it's
Little Billy
rolling.
Joe. I ain't gonna give it to him.
Hey, look, once it's
But
rolling, you got to roll with it because there's.
but
Go ahead.
but I'm gonna say though, you see it starting now. Where does it end?
What was
Because listen, and what
you
I
talking
mean
about? The
by that
rule
is,
changes, specifically the rule
yeah,
change? Yeah.
where does it end? Because this is the thing with his celebrity status, like he's going to break so many barriers and records. It's like, are you going to start saying, well, nobody of this caliber could be a coach, or like like you gonna have to, you gonna have to, like you start now, because people of that status of celebrity and have that charisma and stuff, they're gonna be able to maneuver around. Like you ain't gonna stop because they have so many people that are now becoming invested in that. So you're gonna have to restructure many things about that NIL
Mhm.
because now this brother has a major platform to do it at
Yeah.
in a major conference.
Yeah.
Any other time they would say, "Hey, y'all got to step up and follow suit." Now, oh, slow down. You just got here. What is this? Tell everybody to step up, catch
Yep.
up.
Exactly. But
No.
but but
So
everybody likes the shortcut, which I get to a certain extent. But then again, there are no shortcuts. So stop selling that BS mess. Here's what I find interesting, and I appreciate that, McKee, because this is one of the points I was going to make, but I didn't have this detail, and I'm glad he just added this detail. So they offered Dion, what was it, 20 some odd million, whatever it was. It's like six million a
they
year, something like that.
they paying them. I think maybe the base 29.5. He may have some other incentives
Yeah.
with that.
but
But
they didn't.
29.5, 30 million over 5
Yeah, so
years.
it
But
was 6 million a year is the number that I remember. So
yeah,
the funny thing, it was like, where they gonna get the 6 million a year?
well, they said they didn't have it.
They didn't have it. And Colorado was like, nope, come on, we'll find the money. Well, they found the money.
Well,
Deion
they knew he was
Sanders,
gonna bring it. Yeah.
Deion Sanders has amassed Colorado's made $280 million over 4 games.
Now, is that in revenue or that's just
That's total right now in terms of total estimate. Total estimated revenue. Now, how much of that is profit? I'm not sure, but it sounds like they found the money. So,
well, they knew that.
yeah, they were gonna find again, but that's
that.
what he brought with it. Like, well, you'll make the money. Don't worry.
He brought up higher ticket prices, more paraphernalia, which we gonna get into another show because some of them folks done went wild out there. We ain't gonna get into that, but tonight because we ain't got time. But we
Yeah,
gonna get it. We see your shirts out there.
Mm.
We see your shirts, but
yeah,
but they knew that. And how many schools? That was a bold move, as Brother McKee would say. It was a bold move they did because not many schools would do that and say, "Hey, we're gonna bring you in and promise you this, even though we ain't got it all at this time." But they knew the power of that. Now, the interesting thing is, well, the interesting thing is, okay, how many years do they get this surplus until they say, "All right, uh, we wanna restore." This is wrong. I ain't gonna bring that up. No, go on, Mac. Take it back. I ain't gonna get into that. Right now. I ain't gonna
go
get.
ahead.
No. I ain't gonna get into. That's another show because we need 20 minutes, 25 to talk about that. So I ain't gonna get into that right now.
Yeah,
But
but I, like I
because I'm
said,
gonna come back to that with the shirts. We see y'all shirts
yeah.
out there.
But what he did was put the target on his back. That what's yet to be seen is if he's made to be the target. Like there's a difference between the kind of target he could become versus the kind of target he's been in the past. So like there again, we'll go back to that primary keyword evolution. Like Deion's stature could evolve into something else, but I think what he's done, especially for college football, is great. It breaks down the barrier of should we hire those coaches, and honestly, I believe that him coming out of Jackson State was somewhat strategic by those in Power Five conferences, in my opinion,
Yeah.
because he was bringing influence to FCS schools at a time where it was like, again, when you saw Travis Hunter, who was 5-star athlete, shift away from an FBS school to go to an FCS school, we got to get him out of there. or they going to take all the talent at some point. So it was like him being, again, I think he'll work through that and make it better for other coaches who may not get the same opportunity, and they'll see these opportunities and bring them in and then increase the revenues.
We'll see. I think it's the start of something. We'll see.
It's definitely the start of something. We just don't know what yet. Like actually, we do know what. We just don't know how it's going in. Like we know what it's starting. It's like the shots have been fired.
I know how it's going in. He gonna start getting them calls 3 hours before kickoff. We don't think such is eligible. There was one paper that we couldn't find in his transfer for paperwork or his recruited, and that's how it all starts. And he's got 3 players started sitting out
Yeah.
under eligibility investigation. No, Let me
But
stop.
but
I'm not
listen,
going to that. Shout out to
and
the
but
NCAA.
listen, this is
Shout
basically
out.
what we heard. This is what I heard when I read the article.
Oh,
Sorry, I didn't think it would do that.
come on.
It's supposed to be an instrumental. I didn't know it was gonna have that.
Hey, you got to
But
stop. You got to stop it.
yeah,
This is a family show, man. It's a family show. We'll
but we heard.
dedicate that one to hip hop.
I heard ether. Like you heard the shots. Like
Yeah.
the ether shots came on. When I read that first article, they was like, yeah, but the article I read wasn't the one McKee's talking about. It was the one about the unofficial visits.
Yeah.
Shots fired. Ether. We're on a diss track battle. Is headed that direction. Speaking of direction, we're both in our 40s. It's gotten a little bit older. I gotta ask this question. I wonder if there are people who can come on and chime in this one. So for anybody who's listening, make sure you chime in on this because boy, do I got something to say about this. So I'm scrolling through social media as I'm always doing. I'm not always posted, but I'm always scrolling to see what other people are talking about because social media is the way that you can observe people and not look weird. Like it's like social media is like going to it's literally like going to a crowded mall and then going to the food court and then sitting down at different tables and see what everybody talking about. Like you ain't asking them that. Like you kind of don't want to know, but they just randomly tell you. Like people don't even understand is what social media is like. It's like walking outside and somebody just going, I just had spaghetti. And it's like nobody asked you if you had spaghetti. Like if you think about how weird that is. You walked outside right now and just screamed whatever was on the top of your mind. Everybody would look at you crazy. That is social media. And I still find it interesting that people do that no matter how crazy it looks. But this wasn't crazy to me. So the Shade Room popped the question today, and the question was, can you go on a date with $150? And I had to track this back to 1997, 98, 18, 19 years old, 20 years old, early 2000s, and was like, boy, that girl would have had the time of her life, whoever that was, for $150.
I used to
Like,
show
what
them a good
kind
time
of
for
question
$20.
is this? So what else?
I could show them a good time for $20.
I ain't lying. Look,
Bojangles and a dollar movie. Let's go.
but listen, you done went. Look, we'd have went to Applebee's, Bar Hop, got a movie. Especially back when gas was 97 cents a gallon.
Yeah.
Man, we going to Charlotte. Man, what you talking about?
But,
That's dinner in a hotel room.
but
a
hold
weekend.
on. But let me ask this: $150? Is this a date with my wife, or are they talking about casual dating?
So this is casual dating.
Oh,
So
no, sir. Yes. 150 is way more than enough, and it's too much to be spending on a casual date.
Yeah,
I
listen.
got a nice dinner and maybe a couple drinks if I want, but 150
Yeah,
on a
listen.
casual date? Maybe I'm just cheap. Maybe I don't know the new thing now.
No. So casual dating $150. I'm looking like a baller shot caller all day long. Like I'm tipping the waitress, calling them garçon and all kinds of stuff. Like that's I'm in Applebee's like garçon.
Well, it depends on where you go, because nowadays, some of them look at, back in our days when we would date, man, like nice date, like you could go to Applebee's and that'd be
like that was the
now
jam.
they might look at that like, oh.
So that's actually the reason why I wanted to talk about this, because now we have to take the new age perspective. The new age perspective is different because What we're talking about is late 90s, early 2000s. Where would $150 get you? Like that's
Man,
all we all over
that
the
would have
place.
got me 3
We
dates.
if, literally,
Girl, Imma take
literally,
you out 3 nights
and,
in a row. No.
and all kinds of different places.
Yeah.
But in new age perspective, is different. The answer is still a resounding yes, though, because so I want to talk about it for this reason, because it begs the question: what is it that you're trying to achieve? So
Yeah.
dating is supposed to be and should be, regardless of whatever your intents are about learning the other person that you are seeking to date. So that means you have a lot of room for creativity. So it doesn't matter how much money you actually have in your pocket. It's, are you listening to them and are they listening to you? And I hope there's a lot of brothers out there listening to me, because the thirst is real out here. I've seen you fellas, and I can't call you by name because I don't know any of you personally, but I've seen you brothers, and the thirst is real. But what I'm saying is, you a lot of times you see brothers that own a crash course. So we had a subject a little while ago where it was, and I showed it to y'all, and I was a little ticked at the dude because he was like, there was a girl that he was going to meet, and he told her to meet her at Chili's, and her response was, "No, meet me at such and such." And then he looks up the restaurant and is like, "Why you want me to meet here? Like, I just met you." And she's like, "No, if you really want to date me, you should go blah, 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 blah." And it is like, this is a very chic, expensive restaurant. Like, do you intend to pay for your own meal? And she's like, "Nah." It's like, "Well, no, I'm not gonna meet there." My problem with that particular scenario was that he was going back and forth with the girl. And for me, it was like, that's a shorter conversation. You can see that's not gonna go anywhere. Like, get out. Literally, get out. This is what
What's
this
going
type
on the
of thing you
set?
got to tell your kids when they buy.
What's going on the set, man?
Using
Get
the ice
your
in
tech
the
crew.
background,
Crew,
using the
man.
ice machine, man. It's insane. It's insane how that I
Tech
get
crew.
over.
No, you just say they moving.
Flat out Rodney
moving
Dangerfield
scenery.
me in here, man. He Rodney Dangerfield me, man. No respect. Just none whatsoever. Just
You supposed to say that's the tech crew moving lights and stuff, man.
No, that was my son getting
You ain't
ice.
supposed to say all that. We're the realest show. We're the realest show on social media.
But no,
What
so
else
going
can
back
you
to what
get
I
at?
was saying, this boy, I mean, is really, get out of
Where
here.
else can you get that, America?
Nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. Send us money. Anyway, so now we'll so in that he was going back and forth with the girl too much. And I'm using this one as an example because what you have are guys and girls who are on a crash course to get what they want and not listening to the other person to such an effect, they end up in these very contentious situations. So if you're talking to the right girl and everybody's on the right page, like, you can get away with spending 15 if everybody's on the right page. But everybody has to be on the right page. But if you want to keep it, and Lil Wayne said this best, it ain't tricking if you got it. He's right. It ain't tricking if you got it. It's tricking when you got to decide, do I want to try to get this, or do I need to pay my light bill?
Yeah. And
then you roll the dice on that. Like, you trick it. you flat out trick.
I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna give some of the fellas listening some advice. If you want to take people out on dates that's more than $150, you better start giving plasma.
Start getting what now?
Giving plasma.
Especially with the job market the way it is these days.
It set you up.
And that's going to be
go every other day, every 48 hours. Go give some
long line too.
Get paid for that plasma.
And here's the thing: is like, but if you
that got me through about a year of college.
Yeah,
But look, gas was so much cheaper then because I get that
I know.
$20. It was 20,
That would fill
20
up the
every time.
tank.
Well, you get 25 the first, then 20 every time. And that 20, I can put 10 in the tank, 10 towards a meal.
And that was 2 meals back then.
And then you go
So the
2
Burger
days
King
later,
twice in
you
a day.
still got something in the tank, so you can just throw 5 of it and keep 15. So you get that meal money up. By the end of the week, when it's time to go out on that date, you got a full tank and you got about $30 that you could go get a
Mhm,
good meal with and leave
mhm.
a good tip.
Yeah,
Because
but
back then, the average bill was still under $10.
that was
Anything.
then.
Yeah.
That was then. This is
Now,
now. It's easy to spend
now
$30
I'm
at
I'm calling the
Chick-fil-A.
now I'm calling the Red Cross, like, y'all got some spots in there? I just need 2 days. Let me get what y'all paying. Okay. Y'all got any studies y'all doing? Let me do a study.
Usually you roll up in the Red Cross like, what is hidden for?
What it hitting for?
What is
Look, put me on one of them studies. I just make sure I get the placebo. Make sure I get the placebo. Y'all, I need about 300.
When you start smoking cigarettes just so you can be on the new cigarettes day. You walk in with one.
Look at word.
Y'all looking to somebody for the study, ain't you? I'll be part of the study. What studies you got? Cigarettes, did it? Somebody give me a cigarette.
Yeah,
but you wouldn't have to do that if you stayed true to who you are and not trying to stay true to who she think you should be. And that's the best advice I can give you, brothers, is if she is like, I need a man that can spend $100 and take me, like, she looking at the first date as it should be Ruth Chris.
woo.
That's the problem. And I'm saying this that even if you got it, unless you like, well, if you feel like the first date should be Ruth Chris, then I feel like the first date should be
Hold on.
pretzels.
We're
I'm just gonna say pretzels.
we're a family show.
I'm just
Anyway,
gonna say pretzels. But my point is, but my point is this:
see,
if
Mac. This
you,
is why we don't hold true to this name of this
but the,
live 15 minutes. We're back. See, yeah, this is why we go an
this
hour.
is,
'Cause
we're
you
no
always
longer
taking it
15
to an
minutes.
extreme.
Yeah,
You always taking it to an
we're
extreme.
no longer 15 minutes. But my point is this: when you can't then, or if you set an expectation and he sets an expectation, or vice versa, you can't then argue against the expectation that's being set. Like you have to be able to reciprocate one way or another. So it's not an unfair expectation if you set one. If you did listen, if he's sending YMCA signals because you said let's go to Ruth Chris, I think that's fair. Both parties have the opportunity to say no. That's really what I'm saying. Like, well, can I get the Y? And you like, nah. And he like, all right, well, nah. Like, we shouldn't be looking at that brother differently because of what he's saying. And that's really all what I'm saying. $150 is more than enough.
See, we done straight. But the answer is yes, 150
Yeah.
should be. No, let's say it like that. 150 should be enough to date.
Right. Now
We got some stats, and shout out to super producer Will McKee with the stats that Zooks.com did a study saying that the average date in the U.S. costs $97.67.
that
But to
sounds
be
about
far
right.
more in certain places, but that sound close to right if you're trying
that sounds
to
pretty
do
accurate.
movie dinner or club dinner or bar lounge, dinner,
I've spent $75 to $80 on lunch. Just me and my wife.
But that's your wife.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I don't mind that with my wife.
yeah,
But if you talking about casual dating, what this thing is,
yeah.
you might
So
get
look, here-
$40 and a
so
fortune cookie.
here's the thing. I'll tell you a quick story. On September the 19th, 2002,
Come on.
my wife and I went out on our first date.
Come on. You remember that? Boy,
Dog,
you stay in good
listen,
grace.
it's a
You
hard
stay in
day
good
to remember. I mean, to forget. Sorry. It's a hard day to forget. It was one of my brother's football game, and it was Dudley versus Southwest. So it's not hard to go back and find it. Well, actually, it is hard to go back and find that date, 2002. But because of that significance, I remember when it was. We went to the football game, which again was $10. We stopped and got TGI Fridays takeout, which is probably about $30. I don't even think it was that much then.
No,
Like
probably
you
not.
can look, I think you can still get 2 meals in TGI Fridays a day for less than $30. Like they
Yeah, that's
hadn't
probably
changed much
about
at all.
20,
It's
22,
about 20, yeah,
25.
22, 25. I'm gonna say 25. So now we had $35 total. And then we went to Best Buy. I mean, no, not Best Buy. Blockbuster, because they got the same colors and name.
Yeah.
The name is similar. So you now understand why I said Best Buy.
Yeah.
We went to Blockbuster and picked up like 2 or 3 movies or something, and that was another like 15. So yeah, you can. She was cool with it. Matter of fact, she bought the food, so I paid for everything else. So here we go.
That's
I'm married.
awesome date.
I married that woman.
Yeah.
So for the rest of y'all, never mind, because I ain't gonna make it seem like not getting married is like is not being married is not taboo. Like if you know that's who you are, then be true to who you are. If you a gigolo, be a gigolo. I am not gonna be the one to come on here and tell you not to be who you are. Whatever makes you happy, do it.
Just do it under $150.
Just do it under $150.
I ain't gonna lie.
No, I ain't even gonna say do it under 150. Just
Do it
know
under
that you
100.
can do it for under 150. It don't cost that much.
No.
But the point I wanted to make with that story is it's possible, and I wasn't judged. If I felt in any moment that I was being judged,
Yeah.
like the future was not looking bright for us if I were to have been judged. But not only was I not judged, I was met halfway.
Yeah.
And I didn't ask to be met halfway.
Yeah.
So there you go.
It's cool. But I'm gonna bring up this question, Mac. And
Okay.
it ain't for us to go because we running right at the hour. But I'm gonna bring up this question.
Okay.
And maybe we'll save it for the next time. And it might cause some controversy. And usually Mac is the one that causes controversy, and I have to put out a disclaimer. But tonight I'm
Okay.
gonna cause controversy. I want to know how many of these women feel that way, especially in the example you gave of the post about that one day, especially on like a first date or still getting. How many of y'all are just really trying to get a come up because y'all like, I might not like this dude, or this might be the only date. So I'm gonna make sure I get something that's worth my time.
So
How many of y'all are
basically
doing
free
that?
meals.
Free meal. So I'm
McKee,
gonna try to push him. I'm gonna
McKee,
try to push him to the most expensive place
hold on.
with the best drinks and food. Cause if I don't like this dude, I don't want to just be settling for TGI Friday. No shot to TGI Friday. I'm just saying they're looking at more Ruth Chris. So they trying to push to get this exquisite because
Hey,
you know
first off, hungry people don't give a daggone what they eat. That's number one. You hungry?
that's
You better go take the free food.
that's what I tell my
It
children.
could be a
You ain't
soup
really
kitchen.
hungry then if you being that picky.
Exactly.
Yeah, I tell my
It could be a soup kitchen. But hey,
yeah, be like,
right now it's getting ready to
yeah,
be TGI Fridays Longhorn or something.
yeah. I mean, and see, that's the question that need to be asked. Because I think y'all pushing brothers to that more expensive spot because I might not really be into this guy. but I'm gonna give him a shot to see if he can change my mind. But in the meanwhile, I'm gonna make sure I get something worth my time. I think they doing that, man. I think they doing that, man. I think they
So
doing.
this, so I wanted to pull this 2019 Science Daily did a study, and it revealed that somewhere between 22 to 33% of women said that they engage in a foodie call. That's the name for this. Is called a foodie call, and they say that they only go on dates for the free meal. Now,
I love
now
it.
let me tell you, this ain't new. Women have been going out for free meals since the beginning of time.
I love it. A foodie call. You know what? Let me call my wife. I'm gonna make a foodie call.
I've made my number of Wendy's runs on Summit Avenue. You
get a real specifics, bro.
Hey, look, I've made my runs. I don't run from that at all.
You give a
look.
Look, our producer with kid in the back. You know what I like. You got it. After all, it's a foodie call.
But here's the thing, though. There's a way that you can do it. This is the funny thing about it. Like there's genuinely a way that you can do it. You can try to provoke the interest by giving empty promises, or you can just be honest. Like there are two ways to go. There are two ways to go about it. And what I'm saying to you is in my younger years, I don't mind saying this, in my younger years, if you were honest, I made that run. If I felt like you would, if I felt like, I'm even going that far, if I felt like you were dishonest, even if I made that run, that was the last run. Like, because it's I don't have time for you to keep trying to. Exactly. You was out to get the foodie. You know what I'm talking about?
Hey, but look, let's be honest, man. Especially when it's casual. How honest are we? This might be another show. How honest are we?
But here's the thing, though. If
how much is front?
Listen, at the time I'm working in warehouse jobs and all kinds of silliness like that. If you're a young college student, I'm a young idiot chasing young college students. So we got two very.
Thank you for your honesty.
These things are very opposing. They're going on at the same time. If you're hungry and it's 11 p.m. and you like, I ain't got no ride. Like, I met you walking, so I know you don't have a car. Just call me and say, hey, do you mind just bringing me something? Because that's the best way for me to come do it. But if you don't like, well, I missed you all day. Maybe we should do just say you want something to eat. like I kind of don't have time for this. Like I need to get home. I got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning tomorrow to go drive this forklift that I don't want nothing to do with. I'm still trying to figure my life out. I'm 19. Miss me with the rest of it. I was like that young. Like, just so you know, like I was like that young. Like, miss me with that, man. I kind of don't have time for this. Like, what is it that you like? And again, but it worked. Like, when you make people be honest with you, it works. Because then it's like, then we're not wasting time. Then you can just call me and tell me what you need, so I can tell you whether I can or can't do it. Period. Like, I was talking to me and my son went in Walgreens one day, and when we got out the car, this dude walked up and he was like, "Oh my God, man, glad you popped up, man. I need money for such. I don't know what he said. He could have said that, man, my house is on fire, my wife and kids is in there. Please help. He could have said that. I won't listen. I was like, man, I ain't got it, man. I ain't got it.
So I'm in the store, and we go in Walgreens, get what we want, pull my wallet out, pull my card out, and as I open my wallet, I realize I have cash in my wallet. So I'm like, oh, I do have cash in my wallet. So we walk outside, the dude is out there, and I give him the cash that was in my wallet. Just so people know, I made a different amount of money then than I do right now. I wouldn't do that now. It's a little impossible. But then it was okay. Like I just gave him the money. So my son's like, I thought you didn't have any money. I was like, I didn't think I had any money either. And he was like, why'd you give it to him? I was like, because he said he needed it and I had it. And I was like, son, that's the depth of my thought process. It doesn't get any deeper than that.
Mm-hmm.
If I have it, I'm willing to give it to you. If I don't have it, I don't give a damn what your story is. It ain't gonna change the fact that I ain't got it. Like it really don't matter what your story is. If I ain't got it, I ain't got it. Like I can't. Otherwise, I give it to you. And I ain't telling you I ain't got it because I got it, and I just don't want to give it to you. That requires way too much more energy. So, and then it was the same way. Like, listen, if you need $5 to get some Bojangles or something, and I got 4, I ain't got it. I ain't able to come by there. Like I can't come by there. Like I'm making my own lunches for work right now. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I need this $4 to get to work the rest of the week. That's how much of a struggle it was, kids.
Yeah,
$4.
We've had those struggles, man. But ladies, stop with the foodie calls. A third of y'all only do foodie calls.
So he said, stop. I'm gonna tell you to keep going.
I love it, but
listen,
stop it.
I take any amount of money they give it.
Because you're misleading people when you're doing that. You're misleading people. You're playing games with people, and it can come back to haunt you. I'm doing this for your safety.
Now that's true.
And your health.
Now that's true. It can come back to haunt you. I mean, like literally, and like legally, that's called stalking. Like that's how it comes back to haunt you. Like it
comes back.
Like, girl, we go with it.
Going out with somebody you really like, and you see this cat 3 months later, and he's like, "Why you ain't called me after we went out? I thought we had something."
And you're listen.
It's home from there.
Listen, women, have you ever been in a relationship you didn't know you was in? Y'all do it to us all the time. But when you need to be scared is when a dude put you in a relationship you ain't know you was in. Yeah. And you was his girlfriend. That joker might kill everybody. But before you think about going to get that free meal at Lone Star, ask yourself, is it worth dying for? Because if you get the wrong dude, that could be your fate. I hate to say it like that, and I'm laughing. It sounds weird.
Let me put a disclaimer. The views and thoughts expressed.
Whatever, man. Listen.
Expressed by Mac are not the views of the names are not important.
Forget what Ben talking about. I'm telling you the truth. For one,
please be advised.
For one, I'm gonna apologize. You know what? I'm sorry. I watch way too much Fatal Attraction and Dateline.
You watching them Lifetime movies.
Nah, not the Lifetime movies. I'm talking about the real stuff that happened to Dateline and stuff like that. Stuff scary because it happens. Like that's the crazy thing about it is like I'm joking about this and like, man, that dude could be crazy. But seriously, like that stuff happens. Like I just watched one yesterday. This is no joke. I just watched one the other day where this dude had. And we're gonna talk about this on another show for another day because I likened what happened to him to I was like there was no difference between him and the survivors of R. Kelly. And what I mean by that is this: there's a guy who was who had dated a woman 30 years ago when they were like 17, 18 years old. He hadn't seen her in 30 years, and 30 years later they reconnected. She convinced him that her husband was torturing her and beating her up and having her gang raped.
And she had convinced him so much that he literally drove. She had convinced him that he couldn't call the police. And he drove from Tennessee to Texas and killed that dude in the early morning while he was walking his dog in the middle of his neighborhood. That's how much he had convinced her to do it. There are some people out here who got some screws loose. And if, like what Ben is saying, if you mislead, that's why I jumped off of it. I was like, nah, I said, y'all do it. I'm like, nah, you know what? He's right. Probably want to be a lot more careful about that, because the wrong person can be like, you know what? I ain't going down without a fight. And that's a different kind of fight. Like some people are just going to stalk you a little bit, do something else crazy. I don't know. You find them in your underwear drawer. You never know. Like if you don't want that, like definitely don't miss.
But that goes to your point, dude. Just be honest.
Yeah,
like
just don't
be like, hey, can you bring me some food? Have them Uber some food over.
Exactly. Because here's the thing. Because it's like there's a dude that will do it.
Yeah.
Like you can. I mean, like by being honest. Like I don't know why this is such a hard concept for y'all. If you be honest, like it's like here's the like I had this one. I'll never forget this. This happened a while ago too. But a couple guys, pretty good friends with. I'm at their apartment. This is years ago. Met their apartment, and one of the girls that they know comes over because they were like doing tattoos, piercings, stuff like that, right? So girl comes over and she's sitting there, and they kind of got this brother-sister kind of relationship, the guy and the girl. I'm not calling either one of their names, so I'm saying it that way. But something was wrong with her cell phone, and she was trying to get him to fix it. And my man was like a whiz with electronics. So this was, and again, we're talking 2000, 2001. So electronics wasn't as y'all see them today. Like they were, like I think the only games on the phones back then were like Snake. And that was like everything was still in black and white.
And that was when you still had nights and weekends.
Exactly. And it was also when you had to keep a pager on you so that people would page you first because there was no texting. It wasn't that long ago, but it was long ago. Like in terms of technology, it's like 100 years.
It was the age of the two-way. If you had a two-way,
yeah, you could text, but
it was big time.
It was the same. But so he was like, well, whose number? He was like, who is Don't Answer? And she was like, oh, that's this dude, such. He was like, then you got to don't answer one and don't answer two. You got to don't answer one and don't answer two. And then she was able to describe all these dudes, like who they were. She knew who they were. And I'm sitting there listening to it. And I'm like, wait a minute, but why are they numbers in your phone in the first place? If your answers don't answer, like, what do they do? And she's like, oh, nah, they just, they hollered at me and I gave them a phone number. I was like, why? You just said you knew immediately you didn't want anything to do with any of these three dudes. You gave me your phone number anyway? And she was like, yeah. I was like, why? And she was like, well, you know how most dudes are. I was like, no, I don't know how most dudes are. Enlighten me. I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, well, if I gave them the wrong number or told them I didn't want my number, they might go off on me. I was like, has it ever occurred to you that if you told them no, they may have just said okay? And went on about their business. Honestly, it's what most dudes do. Like,
or just say I got a man.
Yeah.
And all he could say is, "What your man got to do with me?"
And then and see,
I'm not trying to hear that.
And see, Positive K was the first example of a stalker. That is a stalker. That is a stalker concept. That's he go. You know what?
Shout out to Positive K.
You know what? Hold on. Positive K was an example of a Mr. Grady, and I'ma leave it
Let's
Man,
leave it at that, and let's sign out on
I'm,
that.
yeah, we gonna sign out
Let's
on
sign
that
out
one.
on that, man. Hey,
You
catch
gonna
us
you gonna be with the
on,
mad
on,
hour
on
with
Names Are
me.
Not Important on YouTube. Names Are Not Important on Facebook. Also Sunday nights, we back with Be Acting Up at 9 p.m. every Sunday. Hey man, hey, back and free on Instagram. Need any final shout outs? We're gonna leave it. I can't
Yeah,
believe you went
we
there.
gonna leave it
Any
there.
final,
See, this is why we used to do live. This is why we did pre-records, because these lives are dangerous, man.
very dangerous,
I don't
man.
know. This is we're gonna change the name of this episode, these shows, to When Keeping It Real Goes Wrong.
Can't believe. But look, hey, look, man, we done went over. I'm and to our public, I'm gonna start. I ain't gonna name them 15 minutes no more.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
done.
Names
Yeah,
Are Not Important.
we
We're
done
back
with
and
that.
free.
We don't know.
You know, you know who it is.
Yeah.
Hey, back, man. Take us out. I can't deal with you no more, man. After that, can't deal with you.
Peace.